Cameron, I so hate that. Alrighty, it's Thursday night here again in Worcester, so it's another free education event put on by the Worcester Tea Party. Tonight we have tales of hobbyists, lobbyists, and tourists. Two very different topics presented by two leaders of local tea parties. This is a really good first for us here at the Worcester Tea Party. I'm very proud that we were able to organize this, and I'm very proud of all of you for showing up. So, let us start as is our tradition, and as we are all able, if I could have everyone up standing, if Jim would be so kind as to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Now, I will hand this over to our Master of Ceremonies, professional radio show host, and all-around great guy, John Weston.
How can you turn your microphone on?
Hi, how you doing?
Okay, we're going to talk about hobbyist lobbyists for a while tonight, which our guest who just stood up was president of the Rhode Island Tea Party, and Mike, like a lot of us in the Tea Party, started out at the very beginning and still continues on very eloquently and works very hard at it. His experience is slightly different than mine. I'll tell you about mine later on the lobbyist end of it. But his lobbying is in the environmental area, and he helps to consult the small and large businesses on how they can stay up with regulations and not sink under the weight of the pressure, so that they can continue to provide jobs for people. So anyway, Mike, why don't you have it?
Thank you. Actually, while I work in the environmental business as a consultant, my lobbying really comes down to the fundamental principles that the Tea Party movement and the Rhode Island Tea Party stand for, which is constitutional adherence, good government, and fiscal conservative policies, promoting free market capitalism and all the good things that come with that. To that end, when I moved to Rhode Island back in early 2008, and when the Rhode Island Tea Party got started, and the Tea Party movement really got started in very early 2009, I realized, because I saw very quickly the direction that the country was very likely to go in under the Obama administration, which we've all seen, unfortunately, has proved to be that unfortunate fact where we've gone. And I realized that I could either complain about it or I could do something about it. So I started getting involved in Tea Party activities, rallies, going to groups, going to meetings, learning about the issues, getting involved in all the different things that are involved with activism. And fairly quickly I realized that because of the unique situation that is Rhode Island, given the fact that in less than an hour you can get from any point in Rhode Island and be inside the State House, I realized that I might be able to get something accomplished if I got into the lobbying aspect of things. Now, again, I wish I could say I was a highly paid lobbyist. As we all know, this sort of thing is totally on a volunteer basis. And we do it because we care about these fundamental principles that we believe in. So I went through the administrative requirements, and I'm sure they're different in Massachusetts, but I essentially had to go to the Secretary of State's office, apply, form a relationship with the Rhode Island Tea Party that was formal and specified, and I wound up being able to actually do unpaid volunteer lobbying on different issues, different legislative bills that came up in the Rhode Island State House. It's been interesting. It's been in many ways rewarding. In many ways, it's had me wanting to tear my teeth out. That have learned that there is an incredible amount of, I'm not sure what is the larger talent that ultimately legislators have. It's either arrogance or breathtaking stupidity. I still haven't figured that one out. I think it's a combination of both. However, there are a number of really good people who get into the public service end of things because they really want to make a difference and make positive change for their constituents and for the people of not only Rhode Island, but also in all the states. And that comes really from both political parties. Unfortunately, there are some that are misguided in their philosophy, and they believe that all the wrong things can be done to affect the positive change, which, as we all know, some of those progressive ideas simply don't work. States like it will never work in a free society. But I'm not going to get into a tangent here. The lobbying aspect of it has really allowed me to develop relationships with a number of different legislators. In some cases, I've formed personal friendships with these people. I have been able to make connections with other good government groups, activist groups. In some cases, in somewhat disparate, fundamentally philosophical agendas from ours. Say, for instance, we have actually had collaboration on individual issues with Occupy Providence, simply because they opposed the same thing that we opposed, and we have tried to adopt the old adage of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I don't care who it is. If I can use that person to further an agenda for the promotion of liberty, then I will do so. And that has actually proved to be more effective in a number of cases than you might have really have initially thought. So there is actually something to be said for that. We have worked with the Rhode Island American Civil Liberties Union on different bills because they had the same position we did. We've had some successes. We were able to get rid of the master quiz, which was an archaic throwback to where you'd have a box on the ballot where if you checked it, it would say Democrat or Republican. And if you checked that box, then every person down the ballot, from the governor all the way down, U.S. Senator, Congressperson, all the way down, would be selected for that particular party. It was archaic. It was hurting independent candidates, hurting independent voters, and we were able to get rid of that. We were able to work with other groups to get rid of that. We were able to get voter ID passed. Okay, not just around Tea Party. I want to stress we have always been a small cog in a big wheel, and I myself am a small cog in the big round Tea Party wheel. So I'm just a big player here. Okay, it really comes down to all of the good people who just want to have their lives made a little bit better and stop having mommy and daddy government telling them how to use the toilet, how to eat, you know, what kind of squiggly light bulbs to use. The children are their own. I can go on and on. We have successfully worked with Rhode Island Second Amendment Coalition to stand hard against the typically nonsensical gun control legislation that the progressives and do-gooders and the gun grabbers try to push through. We've been able to, I like to think, have an effect on having a few regulatory reforms implemented and have some better tax policy implemented. There have been some small successes, okay? Even in a horribly blue state such as Rhode Island, it can work. I do want to let you know, all right, in Massachusetts, obviously, your situation is somewhat different. We are, even with no traffic, we're a good 45, 50 minutes from the State House, probably about an hour by the time you find it. It's not as easy to get from here into Boston. Those folks of you who are in the Boston Tea Party have a somewhat easier goal. You can jump on the T and whatnot, if they're having an evening session, great. I believe the Massachusetts legislature is full-time, correct?
Correct.
It meets year-round?
Yes.
They have morning sessions on the floor, they have morning committee meetings, afternoon committee meetings, yeah, they're full-time. Rhode Island is a part-time legislature. Sometimes I wonder if at times it should be no-time legislature.
Once a year.
Yeah. I would love to see just one session where the first 5 words of the Bill of Rights are actually a reality. Congress shall make no law. Period. End of discussion. Let's go home. For you folks, see, it's been easy for me simply because I am able to talk in the State House halls to the legislators, okay? While that may not always be as easy for you folks, there are many things that you can do to communicate directly with your legislators. I know that Worcester County especially has taken a turn towards the color purple in recent years, from what I understand. There have been a number of liberty-minded legislators that have been elected. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's been my understanding. Much correct. More so than has been in Metro Boston, out in the Berkshires, and in other places. All right? Those legislators have been elected because they think, in a large part, the way you folks do. So you already have a kinship with them. There are ways, excuse me, to reach out to them and communicate to them what your positions are, even if you can't get to the State House in Boston. If you can potentially organize periodic sit-down meetings with them to voice your opinions, voice the issues that are important to you, and how you would like them to present to their colleagues on Beacon Hill, that's something that should be fairly easy to do by contacting them, by contacting their staffs. For those who go to this, actually want to go to the State House, obviously the procedure is going to be a little bit different than it is in Rhode Island, because every state's different. That's the beauty of having 50 different laboratories in which to try this crazy process of representative constitutional democracy that we call a republic. If you're going to do that, if you really want to become a lobbyist, I would assume that you could get all your information from the Massachusetts Secretary of State's website, because that's how we do it in Rhode Island. That, I believe, is the governmental agency that handles the formal application to become a lobbyist, handles the administrative policies, and can provide you with all of the legislative requirements involved with being a lobbyist, whether you're paid or unpaid. As an unpaid lobbyist, things tend to be a little bit easier because, you don't have what is considered by many people corrupting influence or money. We all know, we all know the nonsense of that money is power, absolute power. The most important thing for you folks to know, though, is that even if you don't have the very simple logistical situation that I have in Rhode Island, that John has in Rhode Island. It's fairly easy for you, by doing, I think, what I just suggested, to actually reach out to your legislators, let them know. And actually, since you have, I'm sure there's people in the Worcester Tea Party who are from all over Worcester County. Worcester County is a big area. You've got a number of state representatives and at least several senators, if I'm not mistaken,
Correct.
in this. Okay, if you can actually develop the mechanism for all of them to more easily communicate with each other on these specific issues, the like-minded legislators, it probably would make it easier for them to go ahead and not only introduce legislation to the Senate and House leadership on Beacon Hill, but also to form the cadres and alliances by which they would talk to their other colleagues that you don't have direct contact with, but can communicate your views, your beliefs, your wishes, and your concerns for improving the lot of all Massachusetts residents to the Massachusetts legislature to maybe get some things done. Yeah, it's a tough road. You know what? Nobody ever said that freedom isn't free. I think you can find it very rewarding. And if you're able to develop those relationships with your legislators, you form a personal connection with them. You have more of a stake in helping to keep those good legislators re-elected. You have more of a stake in helping in being able to know how the process on Beacon Hill translates to the people in your communities. So you can better then take that stuff and educate the folks in the communities. Okay, this is what's happening with this bill. This is how the process is working. This is how it's going to affect you. And use those different mechanisms to get some things done. Maybe get some things done for yourself. Even more so than you've already been able to do, because I know you guys have made tremendous inroads. Like I said, you've been instrumental in getting some of these good legislators elected. One of the key fundamental issues is winning elections. Because if you get enough good people elected, that's how you can really start changing the laws. In Rhode Island, we have a goal. I don't know if we're going to get to it. We have a goal to get to a caucus of 26 representatives in our state house. The reason we say 26 is because under the Rhode Island Constitution, all budgetary issues require a 2/3 majority. We have 75 House members. If you have 26 votes that you can guarantee that will block a budget, you can force the leadership to bring in the good legislation and to block the bad legislation. And when you get good legislation into committee for the hearings, when you get good legislation voted out of committee and onto the floor and get a real debate going on, you can then expand the exposure to more people. You get enough good ideas to enough people, and even the ones, like most folks, who are not engaged. We are the exception to the rule. We're actually engaged in the civics process. Most people are too busy just trying to pay the damn mortgage, you know, and pay the tax guy, and get their kids off of school, keep them getting fired from their job. They don't have time to really understand. So in a lot of ways, we can serve as their advocates and their representatives, as their link, so to speak, between them and their legislators, because the legislators can't reach all of them. But folks like us can help educate people on the issues, and then once we develop the relationships with the legislators, we can communicate that to the seat of power where stuff gets done, which is in Boston, which is in Providence, which is in all these other state capitals. And ultimately, if it probably won't happen in our lifetime, if we were able to get things really done right, we translate it even down to DC. I'm not holding out too much hope for that. local control is the way to go. But this effect can affect local level, at the local level, by talking to your legislators. You know, if you had legislators that you were actually able to get a legislator that you were able to actually get to come to one of your meetings. We've had, from time to time, state house representatives, state senators show up at different Tea Party meetings. They see the people who are actually really feeling this, who are really thinking about this. And that really is when you can start getting things done, is by making that personal connection and talking to them, because they can take it to the State House. Thanks.